The blood on the poker table wasn't mine. Not yet, anyway. I kept my hands flat on the green felt, willing them not to shake as the man across from me, Victor something. I hadn't caught his last name, slumped forward with a hole in his forehead. The sound of the gunshot still rang in my ears, high and metallic, mixing with the jazz music that continued playing from hidden speakers like nothing had happened. Your turn, Kara. I looked up slowly. The man who'd just killed Victor without blinking sat 3 seats to my right, smoke curling from the suppressor on his gun as he set it down beside his chip stack. Casual. Like it was a lighter or a phone. Dante Volkov. I'd known his name for exactly 47 minutes, the length of time I'd been sitting at this table in the back room of the Crimson Rose, the casino I'd been working at for 3 weeks as a cocktail waitress. The job was supposed to be temporary, just until I saved enough to disappear properly, until the people looking for me in Seattle gave up or forgot. But temporary had just become permanent in the worst possible way. I said, Dante repeated, his voice dropping to something quiet and dangerous. Your turn. His eyes were the color of winter ice, pale gray with hints of blue that should have been beautiful but instead looked predatory. He was younger than I expected for someone who commanded this much fear, maybe 35. Dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in Renaissance paintings, all sharp angles and brutal elegance. He wore a 3-piece suit like armor, black with subtle pinstripes that caught the low amber light. I forced myself to look at my cards. 2 aces. I'd been about to fold before Victor's brain matter splattered across the hand-painted cherubs on the ceiling. I fold. My voice came out steady. Small miracle. No. Dante's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile if smiles could cut. You don't fold when you have the winning hand. That's the 3rd time tonight you've done that. Interesting strategy, Tessero. The other 4 players at the table hadn't moved. 2 men in expensive suits who looked like they ate fear for breakfast. 1 woman with ice-white hair and diamonds at her throat. And a younger guy, maybe 25, who'd been watching me all night with the intensity of a hunting dog. None of them had flinched when Victor died. I started. You don't count cards, Dante interrupted, studying me like I was a puzzle he intended to solve. You don't mark the deck, you barely look at your hands, and yet you've won 63% of the pots tonight. So either you're the luckiest woman in Chicago, or you're something much more interesting. My mouth went dry. I'd been careful. So careful. The gift, the curse, whatever it was that let me read. Probability in the air like scent. That made me know things I shouldn't. I'd kept it buried. Used it just enough to make decent tips. Never enough to draw attention. Except I had drawn attention. The wrong kind. I want to leave, I said. Of course you do. Dante stood, and the room seemed to shift around him. Everyone unconsciously adjusting to his gravity. He was tall. Probably 6'2", with the kind of controlled violence in his movements that made me think of caged panthers. But first, we play one more hand, just you and me. I don't have any money. I know. He walked around the table, stepping over Victor's body without looking at it. 2 men in black appeared from the shadows and began wrapping the corpse in plastic sheeting. Professional, practiced. But you have something more valuable. He stopped behind my chair. I could feel the heat of him. Smell cologne mixed with gunpowder and something darker leather. Maybe, or just danger itself. Your freedom, he murmured, close enough that his breath stirred my hair. Beat me at poker, and you walk out of here. Lose, and you work for me. Doing what? Whatever I need. He moved to the dealer's seat, dismissing the elderly man who'd been there all night with a small gesture. Simple terms, 1 hand, no cheating, no tricks, just you, me, and the cards. I should have run. Should have bolted for the door, screamed. Done anything but sit there while he shuffled the deck with long, elegant fingers that had pulled a trigger 60 seconds ago. But the other people in the room were watching with the stillness of predators, and I knew with absolute certainty that I wouldn't make it 3 steps. Why? I asked instead. Dante dealt 2 cards to each of us, his movements precise. Because you're lying about who you are, Nadia Kozlov, and I want to know why. My blood turned to ice water. That wasn't my name anymore. Hadn't been my name since I'd fled Seattle with nothing but a backpack and 3 fake IDs. I was Sarah Mitchell now. Nobody from nowhere. Except apparently not. I don't know what. Your father, Dante said conversationally, dealing the flop, was Alexei Kozlov, head of the Kozlov Bratva in Seattle, killed 6 months ago in a warehouse fire that the police ruled accidental, but we both know wasn't. His pale eyes flicked up to mine. And you disappeared the same night. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the table, fighting the rush of memory flames, screaming, the smell of burning flesh, and the sound of my father begging someone to spare me before the gunshots rang out. So here's what I think, Dante continued, his voice soft and deadly. I think you saw who killed him. I think you've been running ever since, and I think the people hunting you are getting close, which means you're desperate enough to take risks. Like winning too much at my poker table. I don't have to tell you anything. No. He pushed his cards toward me without looking at them. But if you beat me, I'll protect you. And if you lose, I'll protect you anyway. The only difference is whether you have a choice in the matter. I stared at him. That's not a choice. Tesoro. The endearment sounded like a threat. In my world, the illusion of choice is all anyone gets. My hands moved before my brain caught up, flipping my cards. King and Queen of Hearts. The flop showed 3 hearts, 10, 8, 4. I had a flush draw and straight possibilities. Good odds. Not great. I looked at Dante's cards where he'd left them face down on the felt. You haven't looked at them, I said slowly. Don't need to. His smile was all teeth. I know I've won. The turn card came down. 7 of hearts. Flush. My pulse hammered in my throat. River card. 2 of hearts. Read them, Dante said, nodding to his cards. I reached out, my fingers trembling now, and flipped them over. Ace and 3 of hearts. Straight flush. The room swam. Impossible. The odds of that. Like I said, Dante murmured, standing. I won. That's not you cheated. You had to have. I don't cheat, Kara. I don't have to. He offered me his hand, and I saw the tattoos peeking out from under his cuffs. Cyrillic letters and Orthodox crosses mixed with something older, darker. Welcome to the Volkov family. You start tomorrow. I didn't take his hand. And if I run, then I send Marcus. He nodded to the young man who'd been watching me all night, who now stood blocking the exit with a gun visible at his hip. He's excellent at retrieval. Not gentle, but excellent. The woman with white hair laughed, sharp and bright. She's got fire, Dante. I like her. You're all insane, I whispered. Dante's expression shifted into something almost like approval. Probably, but insanity keeps you alive in this business. He turned toward the door, throwing back over his shoulder. Oh, and Nadia? Next time you want to hide your gift, don't use it at all. Moderation is more obvious than abstinence. He disappeared through the velvet curtains, leaving me with a corpse being dragged away, a room full of criminals, and the terrible knowledge that I'd just gambled my life on a hand I never had a chance of winning. The cards never lie. But apparently, neither did Dante Volkov. The apartment Dante's people took me to was nicer than anywhere I'd lived in my life. Penthouse. 73rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Chicago's glittering skyline like a jewelry box tipped on its side. Marble floors that echoed with each step. Furniture that probably cost more than my father's entire house in Seattle. A prison cell made of luxury. Marcus, the young enforcer who'd driven me here in a black Mercedes that smelled like new leather and old violence, stood by the door with his arms crossed. He hadn't said a word during the 20-minute drive. Just watched me in the rearview mirror like I might explode. You're to stay here tonight, he said now, his accent Russian but softened by American edges. Don't try the doors or windows. They're monitored. Don't use the phone. Don't contact anyone. And tomorrow, Dante will explain what he needs from you. Marcus's jaw worked like he wanted to say more, but he just shook his head. Get some sleep. You look like hell. He left, and I heard the lock click with terrible finality. I waited exactly 5 minutes before I started searching. The apartment was pristine, untouched, like a show home. 3 bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. A kitchen with gleaming appliances that had never been used. Living room with abstract art on the walls that probably had names I'd never heard of. And everywhere. Cameras. Small black domes in the corners. Watching. I ended up in the master bathroom, sitting on cool tile with my back against the bathtub, trying to breathe through the panic clawing up my throat. My father's face kept flashing behind my eyelids. The warehouse. The flames. The sound of his voice screaming my name. Don't think about it. Don't. I'd gotten good at compartmentalizing over the past 6 months. At shoving memories into locked boxes and swallowing the key. At being nobody. Going nowhere, feeling nothing. But Dante had opened those boxes with 6 words. I know who you are. My phone buzzed in my pocket, the burner I'd bought under a fake name, the one only 2 people had the number for. I pulled it out with shaking hands. Unknown number. The text was simple. You have something that belongs to us. Return it, or die like your father. Ice flooded my veins. I hadn't given anyone this number. Hadn't used it for anything except ordering takeout. How? Another text. We know where you are, Nadia. The Volkov dog can't protect you. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then carefully, methodically, took out the SIM card and snapped it in half, dropped the pieces in the toilet and flushed. It didn't make me feel safer. I didn't have what they thought I had. The flash drive, the one my father had shoved into my hands the night he died. The one with God knows what on it. I'd destroyed it 3 months ago, in a gas station bathroom outside Denver. Watched it burn in a trash can until nothing remained but melted plastic and ash. Whatever evidence of corruption or deals or crimes my father had collected, it was gone. But the people hunting me either didn't believe that, or didn't care. I pulled myself up, caught my reflection in the ornate mirror over the sink. I looked exactly like Marcus said, like hell. Dark circles under my eyes, hollowed cheeks, hair that had been blonde when I was Nadia, but was now brown, growing out at the roots. I'd lost 15 pounds I couldn't afford to lose. 26 years old and I looked like a ghost. A sound made me freeze. Footsteps in the living room, heavy, confident. I hadn't heard the door open. I grabbed the only weapon available, a heavy glass soap dispenser, and edged toward the bathroom door. Dante stood by the windows, his back to me, hands in his pockets. He'd removed his suit jacket, and I could see the shoulder holster strapping a gun to his ribs. The city lights painted him in gold and shadow. That won't do much damage, he said, without turning around. But I appreciate the instinct. I didn't lower the soap dispenser. How did you get in? It's my apartment. You said I'd stay here. Not that you'd. I said you'd stay here tonight. Now he turned, and his expression was unreadable. I didn't say I'd leave you alone. Someone just sent you a threat. 2 of them, actually. Traced to a cell tower 3 blocks away. My stomach dropped. You're monitoring my phone. Was. Past tense. You destroyed it. He moved to the bar cart near the windows, poured 2 glasses of something amber. Smart. Paranoid, but smart. The cameras. Don't have audio in the bathrooms. Privacy laws. His mouth quirked. Even criminals have standards. He held out one of the glasses to me. I didn't take it. The Morozov Bratva, Dante said, swirling the liquid in his glass. That's who's texting you. That's who killed your father. And that's who will kill you if we don't handle this carefully. Handle it how? By giving them what they want. I went very still. I don't have. I know you don't have the drive. I know you destroyed it. He took a slow sip, watching me over the rim. But they don't know that. So, we're going to make what they're looking for. Give them a fake. Buy ourselves time to figure out who specifically ordered your father's death and why. And then what? Then I kill them. He said it the way someone might say, then we have lunch. Casual. Certain. But first, you're going to tell me everything you remember about that night. Every detail, no matter how small. Why do you care? The question burst out of me. You don't know me. This isn't your fight. Dante set down his glass with deliberate precision. Your father and mine were friends. Once. Before things got complicated. Before territory disputes and politics made us enemies. He moved closer, and I fought the urge to step back. Alexei Kozlov saved my father's life 23 years ago. Took a bullet meant for him during a deal gone bad. That kind of debt doesn't disappear just because the man who earned it is dead. So this is about honor. This is about survival. He was close enough now that I could see flecks of darker gray in his pale eyes, like storm clouds. The Morozov Bratva wants to expand into Chicago. They're using your father's death, and whatever information he collected as leverage against my organization. If they have evidence of our dealings, they can destroy us. So yes, Tesoro, this is my fight. You just happen to be the key to winning it. I should have felt used. Should have been angry. Instead, I just felt tired. I don't remember much, I said quietly. Fire, screaming, my father pushing something into my hands and telling me to run. And before that, voices. Men arguing about shipments or routes. I wasn't supposed to be there. My voice cracked. I was just dropping off his dinner. Dante's expression shifted into something that might have been sympathy if sympathy could live in a man who killed people at poker tables. You'll remember, he said. Under the right conditions. For now, drink this. He pressed the glass into my hand. And sleep. Tomorrow, you start learning how to be useful to me. And if I'm not useful. He was already walking toward the door, but he paused, looking back with that dangerous half-smile. Then Marcus gets to retrieve you after all, and I promise, Kara, you don't want that. The door closed behind him. Locked. I stood there holding the glass of whiskey, watching the city breathe and pulse beyond the windows, and wondered if I'd just made a deal with the devil or found the only person who could keep me alive. Probably both. I raised the glass to my lips, tasted smoke and peat and something sweeter, and drank until the shaking stopped. They came for me at dawn. Not Marcus this time, but the white-haired woman from the poker table, who introduced herself as Katya and had the kind of smile that made you check for hidden knives. She brought coffee, espresso, thick and bitter, and a garment bag containing clothes that actually fit me. Black pants, silk blouse the color of dried blood, heels that could double as weapons. Dante wants you presentable, Katya said, perching on the arm of the sofa while I changed in the bedroom. We're going to the club. You'll meet the family. Family. The word tasted wrong in my mouth. The crimson rose looked different in daylight. Smaller, less mysterious. The velvet curtains I'd seen last night were faded, the gold paint chipping on the crown molding. We bypassed the main casino floor and went through a service door, downstairs that smelled like cigarettes and desperation, into a basement that had been converted into something between an office and a war room. Maps on the walls, computers, filing cabinets, and in the center, a large conference table where Dante sat with 4 other people, all of them looking up as I entered. Gentlemen, Katya, Dante said, standing. This is Nadia Kozlov. She'll be working with us on the Morozov situation. The man nearest me 50s, scar bisecting his left eyebrow, laughed. Working with us? She's a liability. We should have dumped her in the river last night. Thank you for that input, Victor. Dante's voice went cold. Oh wait, Victor's dead. I meant Sergei. Sergei's laughter died. Nadia, Dante continued, gesturing to each person. This is Sergei, my head of security. Luca, who handles our financial operations. Katya, you've met. And Mikhail, my second in command, and the only one of you with enough sense not to question my decisions. Mikhail, a lean man with sharp cheekbones and ink crawling up his neck, nodded once at me. Not friendly, but not hostile. Evaluating. Sit, Dante said. I sat in the chair beside him, hyper-aware of how everyone watched me, like I was either prey or a bomb waiting to explode. Dante pulled out a laptop, turned it toward me. These are the Morozov higher-ups. I need you to look at their faces and tell me if you recognize anyone from the warehouse. The screen showed a grid of photographs. Men, mostly. Hard faces, dead eyes, expensive suits. I forced myself to look at each one, pushing past the panic that tried to rise every time I thought about that night. Nothing. No, I said after the 3rd page. I don't wait. One face. Bottom right corner. Younger than the others, maybe early 30s, with a tattoo visible on his neck, an Orthodox cross with a serpent wrapped around it. Him, I whispered. He was there. He was... The memory slammed into me. He was the one who shot my father, who stood there and watched him burn and laughed. The room went very quiet. That's Alexei Morozov, Mikhail said softly. Ivan's son, the heir. Dante leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled under his chin. You're certain? I'm certain. My voice shook with rage I'd been suppressing for 6 months. I watched him pull the trigger. I heard him laugh. Good. Dante snapped the laptop closed. That's exactly what we needed. Luca, I want everything on Alexei Morozov's movements for the past 6 months. Bank records, property holdings, mistresses, favorite restaurants. Everything. Katya, work with Nadia. She's going to help us create the fake drive. How? I asked. I don't remember what was on the original. You remember enough. Dante stood, paced to the wall map, marked with territories in different colors. Your father was tracking shipping routes, specifically, which routes the Morozov Bratva were using to move heroin and weapons through Seattle. That information, combined with what we know about their operations, will be enough to create something believable. And then what? Sergei demanded. We just hand it over? Let them destroy us? No. Dante's smile was all predator. We edit it. Give them real information mixed with poison, routes that lead nowhere, contacts who don't exist, enough truth to make them believe it, enough lies to make them vulnerable. He looked at me. And Nadia here is going to be our insurance policy. Meaning, Katya purred. You're going to deliver it personally. Get close to Alexei Morozov. Make him trust you. My blood turned cold. You want me to infiltrate, Dante said. Seduce, if necessary. Get inside his operation, feed us information, and when the time comes, help us destroy him from within. I stood so fast my chair fell backward. Absolutely not. I'm not, I can't. You can. Dante moved around the table until he was directly in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Because the alternative is the Morozovs find you on their own, and what they do to you will make your father's death look merciful. You said you'd protect me. I am protecting you. This is how. His voice dropped to something almost gentle. I know what I'm asking. Tesoro. I know what happened to you, but you have two choices. Hide forever, or fight back. And I think you're tired of hiding. He was right. God help me. He was right. I'd spent 6 months running, jumping at shadows, barely sleeping, existing, not living. And some dark part of me, the part that was Alexei Kozlov's daughter, the part that grew up around violence and power, wanted revenge, wanted to make Alexei Morozov hurt the way I hurt. How long? I asked. As long as it takes. Weeks, maybe months. And if I get caught? Dante's hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw, in a touch so light I might have imagined it. Then I burn the world down to get you back. The promise in his voice made something in my chest twist. I didn't know if I believed him. Didn't know if I should, but I nodded anyway. Okay, I whispered. I'll do it. Katya clapped her hands together. Excellent. We start your training immediately. New identity, new background, new skills. By the time we're done with you, you'll be irresistible. One more thing, Dante said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet box, opened it to reveal a delicate gold necklace with a pendant, a tiny saint's medal, Orthodox cross etched into the surface. Wear this, always. It has a tracker and a panic button. Press it twice, and we'll come for you. He stepped behind me, and I felt his fingers at my nape as he fastened the chain. His touch was warm, careful, at odds with everything I'd seen him do. There, he murmured, close to my ear. Now you're mine. The words should have terrified me. Instead, they felt like the first solid ground I'd stood on in months. Dangerous ground, maybe, but solid. The meeting dissolved into planning Katya, pulling me aside to discuss cover stories, Luka showing me files on Alexei Morozov's known associates, Mikhail explaining the territory boundaries between the families. Through it all, I felt Dante's eyes on me, watching, calculating, and when our gazes met across the room, something passed between us that I didn't have words for. Recognition, maybe, or just the acknowledgement that we'd both crossed lines we couldn't uncross. The devil's bargain was struck. Now I just had to survive it. Training began that afternoon. Katya took me to a shooting range hidden beneath a dry cleaning business in Pilsen. The space smelled like gunpowder and cleaning solvent, walls lined with targets riddled with holes. Ever fired a gun? She asked, loading a Glock 19 with practiced efficiency. Once. My father taught me when I was 16. Good. She handed me the weapon, adjusted my grip. But knowing how to shoot and being willing to shoot are different things. Dante needs to know you won't freeze when it matters. I raised the gun, sighted down the range at the paper target shaped like a man's torso, squeezed the trigger. The recoil jolted through my arms, but the shot went wide. Again, Katya said. I fired. And again, until my ears rang despite the protection, and my hands ached from gripping the gun. By the end, I could put 3 bullets in the center mass. Better, Katya allowed. But you're thinking too much. This isn't about precision, it's about survival. When Alexei Morozov or one of his men corners you, you won't have time to aim. You point and shoot until they stop moving. The casual violence in her voice made me shiver. We moved to hand-to-hand combat next. A gym in the back, mats on the floor, mirrors reflecting my pathetic attempts to block her strikes. Katya was smaller than me, but moved like water fluid, impossible to pin down. She swept my legs out from under me for the 5th time. I hit the mat hard enough to knock the air from my lungs. You telegraph your movements, she said, offering me a hand up. Your shoulders tense before you punch. Your eyes track where you're going to kick. Against someone trained, you'll be dead before you land a hit. Then teach me not to. Something shifted in her expression. Approval, maybe. That's the right attitude. Most women Dante brings in cry or complain. You just work. Most women Dante brings in? I managed to get out between gasps for air. Figure of speech. But her eyes said otherwise. Come on. Again. We drilled for 2 hours until sweat soaked through my clothes and every muscle screamed. But by the end, I could block 3 of her attacks and even landed a weak punch to her ribs. Katya grinned. There. Now you're dangerous. Mikhail took over that evening, teaching me the art of lying. We sat in a cafe in Wicker Park neutral territory, he explained, where no family held sway. He ordered coffee and pastries we didn't touch while he drilled me on my new identity. Your name is Mira Volkov, he said. Distant cousin from the Moscow branch. You came to Chicago to study at Northwestern art history, something useless and forgettable. You're cultured, a little naive, and utterly uninterested in family business. But if Alexei checks, he will check. We've already built your legend. Social media going back 4 years, credit history. Even a few professors at Northwestern who'll confirm you were in their classes, they owe us favors. Mikhail leaned back, studying me. The key isn't the details. It's the feeling. You have to believe you're Mira, inhabit her, become her. That's called lying. No, Krasivaya. That's called survival. He made me practice, asked me questions rapid fire, catching me when I hesitated or contradicted myself. Where did you grow up? What's your mother's name? Favorite childhood memory? What brought you to Chicago? By the 10th round, I answered without thinking. Moscow. Irina. Summer at my grandmother's dacha. I wanted to see real American art museums. Good, Mikhail said. Now make me believe you're attracted to me. I blinked. What? Alexei Morozov is a predator. He'll test you, flirt with you. You need to be able to respond without flinching or showing fear. His dark eyes held mine. So convince me, Mira. Make me think you want me. Heat crawled up my neck. This wasn't, I couldn't. That's the hesitation that will get you killed, Mikhail said softly. Try again. I forced myself to lean forward, to let my voice drop into something breathy and warm. I've always been attracted to dangerous men. There's something about power that's... I trailed off, let my eyes dip to his mouth. Better, but I don't believe you're enjoying it. You're performing, because I am performing, then perform better. He stood, dropped cash on the table. Tomorrow, Dante wants you. He'll teach you the last piece, which is... Mikhail's smile was sharp. How to seduce someone you hate. I found Dante in the Crimson Roses wine cellar at midnight. The space was cool and dark, bottles lining ancient brick walls, and he stood in the center examining a vintage I couldn't read the label of. He'd shed his suit jacket and tie, rolled up his sleeves to reveal those tattoos that crawled up his forearms, Orthodox crosses tangled with thorns and Cyrillic script. Katya says you can shoot, he said without turning. Mikhail says you can lie. Now I need to know if you can stomach getting close to the man who killed your father. I can. Prove it. He set down the bottle, turned to face me fully. Come here. I crossed the cellar, each step echoing. He watched me approach with that unreadable expression, pale eyes catching the low light. Closer, he murmured. I stopped a foot away. Could smell his cologne, cedar and bergamot. Expensive. Could see the faint scar bisecting his left eyebrow, the sharp line of his jaw. Alexei will want to touch you, Dante said quietly. He'll invade your space, test your boundaries. You need to let him without showing fear or disgust. So, he reached out, fingers ghosting along my collarbone. Show me you can. My breath caught. His touch was light, almost clinical, but my body reacted anyway, skin prickling, heart rate spiking. Don't tense, Dante said. Breathe. Let me move closer without pulling away. He stepped in, closing the distance until I could feel his body heat. His hand slid up to cup my jaw, thumb brushing across my lower lip. This is what he'll do, Dante whispered. He'll touch you like he owns you, like you're a possession he's considering purchasing. And you'll smile and let him, because that's the only way to get what we need. I forced myself not to pull away, even as every instinct screamed to retreat, even as my hands started to shake. But here's the difference, Dante continued, his voice dropping even lower. When Alexei touches you, he's nothing. A dead man who doesn't know it yet. When I touch you, his thumb pressed a little harder against my lip. It's because I'm reminding you who you belong to until this is over. The possessiveness in his tone should have angered me. Instead, it sent heat spiraling through my stomach. I don't belong to anyone, I managed. Don't you? His smile was dangerous. You're wearing my necklace, living in my apartment, learning from my people. You can tell yourself you're free, Tessero, But we both know that's a lie. He was right. I hated that he was right. What do you want from me? I whispered. Everything. He released me abruptly, stepped back. But tonight, I just want to make sure you won't break when Alexei Morozov puts his hands on you. So tell me, did you feel disgust just now? Fear? I couldn't lie. No. Good. Dante picked up the wine bottle again, poured 2 glasses. Then you're ready. We introduce you to the Morozov family at the charity gala next week. Until then, you train. You study. You become Mira Volkov completely. He handed me a glass, raised his own. To the lies we tell. I clinked my glass against his, tasted wine like velvet and sin. To survival, I corrected. Dante's smile was all teeth. Same thing, Kara. Same thing. The dress cost more than I'd made in a year as a waitress. Midnight blue silk that clung to every curve, slit high enough to show leg, back low enough to reveal the smooth expanse of my spine. Katya had done my hair blonde again, extensions woven in, swept up in something elegant and complicated. Makeup that made me look like someone else entirely. Mira Volkov stared back at me from the mirror. Perfect, Katya murmured, fastening diamond earrings to my lobes. You look like money and sex. Exactly what we need. The charity gala was held at the Four Seasons, a glittering affair where Chicago's elite legitimate and otherwise mingled under chandeliers worth more than houses. I entered on Dante's arm, feeling the weight of 100 gazes as we swept through the ballroom. He wore a tuxedo like it was armor. Black, perfectly tailored, making him look even more dangerous than usual. His hand rested possessively on the small of my back, guiding me through the crowd. The Morozovs are near the bar, he murmured against my ear. Ivan the father, older, white beard. Alexei beside him. I'll introduce you, then fade back. Make him notice you. My pulse hammered. And if he doesn't? He will. Dante's fingers pressed slightly harder against my spine. Trust me. We approached the bar, and I saw them. Ivan Morozov looked like a Russian Santa Claus if Santa Claus murdered people for a living jovial face, expensive suit, eyes like frozen lakes. And beside him, Alexei. He looked different than his photograph. Older, maybe, or just meaner. The tattoo on his neck was visible above his collar, that serpent-wrapped cross. He laughed at something his father said, and the sound made my skin crawl. That laugh. The same one I'd heard over my father's screams. Ivan, Dante said warmly, offering his hand. Good to see you. Truce holding well? Dante. Ivan's handshake looked firm. Indeed. No reason for Chicago families to fight when there's money enough for all. Lies. Pretty lies wrapped in politeness. May I introduce my cousin Mira? Dante continued, drawing me forward. Just arrived from Moscow. Mira, this is Ivan Morozov, and his son Alexei. I smiled, offered my hand to Ivan first. Proper. Respectful. Pleasure, I said, letting my accent thicken slightly. Russian with European edges. Ivan kissed my knuckles, old-fashioned. The pleasure is mine, Dorogaya. Moscow, you said? Which district? Patriarch's Pawns, I answered smoothly. The lie Mikhail had drilled into me. Near the Bulgakov house. My mother loved literature. Cultured family. Ivan's eyes gleamed with interest, but then he was pulled away by another man, demanding his attention, leaving me with Alexei, who looked at me the way wolves looked at wounded deer. Mira, he said, my fake name sounding wrong in his mouth. Beautiful name. For a beautiful woman, you're kind. I let my gaze drop, then flick back up through my lashes. Coy, interested. Dante didn't mention he had family coming to visit. Alexei moved closer, invading my space exactly as Dante had predicted. Are you staying long? Indefinitely. I'm studying at Northwestern. Art history. Art history. He smiled, showing too many teeth. Useless degree, but it suits you. Pretty women should study pretty things. The condescension made me want to drive my heel through his foot. Instead, I laughed lightly. Perhaps, but I find beauty in unexpected places. I tilted my head, studied him. Your tattoo, for instance. Orthodox symbolism mixed with serpent imagery, the eternal struggle between salvation and temptation. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe. You know iconography? I know enough to recognize art when I see it. He was hooked. I could see it in the way his attention sharpened, how he shifted to block the rest of the room from view, making it just us. Dance with me, he said, not a question. I glanced at Dante, who stood 20 feet away in conversation with Katya, but watching me with those pale, unreadable eyes. He nodded, barely perceptible. "I'd love to," I told Alexei. He led me onto the floor, and I forced myself not to flinch when his hand settled on my waist. The music was classical, something sweeping and romantic that didn't match the predator holding me. "So," Alexei murmured, pulling me closer than the dance required. "What brings you to Chicago? Really? Really?" I met his gaze. I was bored in Moscow. Too many rules, too much family oversight. I wanted freedom. Freedom is overrated. Perhaps. But I've always preferred adventure over safety. His smile widened. "Dangerous philosophy. Is it?" I let my fingers trace along his shoulder. "I think safety is just another word for stagnation. Don't you ever want to take risks? Every day, Krasivaya. Every day." We turned, and I caught sight of Dante across the room. He wasn't watching us anymore, had turned his attention to an older woman in diamonds, but I felt the weight of his presence anyway. "You belong to me until this is over." His words echoed in my head as Alexei's hand slid lower on my back, proprietary and wrong. "You're tense," Alexei observed. "Just nervous. I've never been to something this." I gestured vaguely at the opulence around us. "Decadent?" "Exactly. You'll get used to it." "This world," he spun me slightly. "It has its own rhythm, its own rules. The trick is learning when to break them. And do you? Break the rules?" His eyes went dark with something I recognized. Pride. Cruelty. All the time. The song ended. He held me a moment longer than necessary, then released me with visible reluctance. "I'd like to see you again," he said. "Tomorrow. There's a gallery opening in River North. Terribly boring, but with you there, it might be tolerable." I pretended to hesitate, glanced toward where Dante had been. "I should ask my cousin." "Your cousin doesn't own you." Alexei's tone sharpened. "Say yes, Mira, or admit you're afraid of me. Challenge, test." I smiled slowly. "I'm not afraid of anything." "Then tomorrow, 8 o'clock, I'll send a car." He walked away before I could respond, disappearing into the crowd with the confidence of a man who knew he'd won. I stood there in the middle of the dance floor, heart pounding, until Dante appeared at my elbow. "Well done," he murmured, guiding me toward the exit. "He's hooked. He's a monster." "Yes." Dante's hand tightened on my arm. "But now he's a monster who wants you, which means we're one step closer to destroying him." We left through a side door, into the cold Chicago night. The car was waiting, Marcus behind the wheel. Dante opened the door for me, and I slid inside. Suddenly exhausted, he joined me in the back, and we sat in silence as Marcus pulled into traffic. "Tomorrow," I said quietly, "when I see him again." "What's the next step?" "Get him to trust you. Make him think you're infatuated. And when the time is right, I'll give you the fake drive to plant in his belongings." "And if something goes wrong?" Dante looked at me then, and in the passing streetlights, his face was half shadow, half cold determination. "Then you press the panic button, and I come for you. No matter what, no matter where." "Why?" The question escaped before I could stop it. "Why do you care if I live or die?" He didn't answer immediately, just studied me with those winter storm eyes. Finally, "Because you remind me of someone. Someone I failed to protect a long time ago. And I don't fail twice. Tesoro." The weight of that confession settled between us. "Who?" I whispered. But Dante turned away, looking out the window at the city blurring past. "Someone who deserved better than what she got. Just like you." The gallery was everything Alexei promised, boring and pretentious, filled with abstract art that looked like paint thrown at canvas by angry toddlers. But Alexei himself was charming, attentive, witty in a dark way. He kept his hand on the small of my back as we moved through the exhibit, leaning close to murmur commentary that made me laugh despite myself. "This one," he said, gesturing to a canvas that was just red streaks on white, "is called Passion's Descent. The artist claims it represents humanity's struggle with base desires." I think he spilled wine and needed an excuse. I bit back a genuine smile. "You're terrible. Honest. There's a difference." He steered me toward a quieter corner, away from the crowd. "Most people here don't actually care about art. They care about being seen, caring about art. And you're different? I'm worse. I don't even pretend to care." His grin was disarming. "But I like watching you look at it. You actually pay attention. Because I was supposed to. Because Mira Volkov studied art history and would notice brushwork and composition. Because this was a performance. But some part of me had forgotten that in the last hour, Alexei bought me champagne, asked about my classes, listened when I talked about Caravaggio's use of light and shadow. He seemed genuinely interested, and for dangerous stretches of time, I almost forgot who he was, what he'd done. Then his phone buzzed, and he checked it with a frown. I need to handle something. Business. 10 minutes, maybe less. Should I wait here? Come with me. He took my hand, laced our fingers together. You might as well see what I really do. Warning bells rang in my head, but I let him lead me through a service door, downstairs into the gallery's basement. A storage area filled with crated art and packing materials, and 3 men, 2 of them holding a third between them. The third man had been beaten badly, face swollen, blood dripping onto the concrete. I froze. Alexei, one of the men said in Russian. He's not talking. Won't give us the location of the shipment. Alexei sighed, released my hand. Mira, wait outside. My voice came out too high. He turned, and his expression was gentle, almost apologetic. I know this is ugly, but sometimes ugliness is necessary. Go back to the gallery. Have more champagne. I'll find you when I'm done. I should have run. Should have pressed the panic button hidden in my necklace. Instead, I heard myself say, "Let me help." Alexei's eyebrows rose. Help? You need information. He's not giving it to you because he's more afraid of someone else. So change the equation. I forced myself to approach, even as my stomach churned. Make him more afraid of disappointing me than of whoever he's protecting. The men exchanged glances. The beaten man looked at me with swollen eyes, confused. Interesting theory, Alexei murmured. But you're an art student, Krasavaya. What do you know about interrogation? I know psychology. People respond to unexpected stimuli. I crouched in front of the beaten man, made my voice soft. Kind. What's your name? He hesitated. Dmitri. Dmitri. Okay, look at me. I waited until his eyes focused. Whatever they're paying you isn't worth this. And whoever you're protecting, they're not coming to save you. So you can tell Alexei what he wants to know. Or you can die here in a gallery basement surrounded by bad art. Your choice. Simple. Direct. No threats. Just truth. Dmitri started crying. And then, quietly, he talked. Told Alexei everything. The shipment, location, the contact names, the protection money that had been skimmed. All of it spilled out while I knelt there, holding his shaking hand. When he finished, Alexei nodded to his men. Let him go. He earned it. They cut Dmitri loose, and he stumbled toward the exit, still sobbing. Alexei looked at me with something new in his eyes. Respect, maybe even fascination. That, he said slowly, was remarkable. Where did you learn to do that? My father. The truth slipped out before I could stop it. He used to say violence is easy. Making someone want to cooperate is art. Smart man. Alexei came closer, and this time when he touched my face, I didn't flinch. You're full of surprises, Mira Volkov. Is that bad? It's perfect. He kissed me then, sudden and possessive, and I made myself kiss him back. Made myself lean into it, even as my skin crawled and my mind screamed. This was the job, the mission, but it felt like betrayal. When he pulled back, I was shaking. Cold? Alexei asked. A little. Come, let's get you somewhere warm. He draped his jacket over my shoulders, led me back upstairs to the gallery. Tomorrow, I want to show you something. A property I'm considering purchasing. Get your opinion. My opinion on real estate? Your opinion on everything. His smile was genuine. You're fascinating, Mira. I haven't been this interested in someone in a very long time. Guilt twisted in my chest. I texted Dante when I got home. He's trusting me, moving faster than expected. The response came immediately. Good. When he shows you the property tomorrow, plant the tracker I'm sending over. We need to know all his locations. I stared at the screen, then typed. What if I can't do this? What if I'm not strong enough? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, you are. I wouldn't have chosen you if you weren't. But if you need to walk away, say the word. I'll find another way. I almost said it. Almost typed the words that would let me stop pretending, stop lying, stop becoming something I hated. But then I remembered Alexei's laugh over my father's screams. I'm fine. Send the tracker. Marcus delivered it an hour later. Tiny device, smaller than a penny, magnetic backing, He showed me how to activate it, how to place it somewhere metal and hidden. "Don't get caught," was all he said before leaving. I lay in bed that night staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The kiss replayed in my head on loop. The way Alexei had looked at me. The lies I'd told. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. My blood iced, thinking it was the Morozovs with another threat. But the text said, "It's Dante, using a burner. How are you really?" I shouldn't have responded. Shouldn't have shown weakness, but I typed anyway. I kissed him tonight, and I helped him interrogate someone, and I don't know who I am anymore. His response came fast. "You're Nadia Kozlov. Whatever you have to pretend to be, whatever you have to do, that core doesn't change. Don't lose sight of it." What if I already have? Longer pause this time. Then I'll remind you. When this is over, when Alexei Morozov is dead and you're safe, I'll make sure you remember exactly who you are. I promise. I clutched the phone, unexpected tears burning my eyes. "Why do you care? Really?" The response took 5 full minutes. "Because somewhere between the poker game and now, you stopped being a job. And that's the most dangerous thing that could have happened." I stared at those words until they blurred. Then I deleted the entire conversation and turned off the phone. Because Dante was right. Whatever this was becoming between us was the most dangerous game of all. The warehouse sat on the industrial edge of the city, rusted and forgotten. Alexei's car pulled up as the sun set, painting everything in shades of blood orange and shadow. He helped me out, his hand warm on mine, and I fought the urge to pull away. "It doesn't look like much," he admitted, leading me toward the building. "But the location is perfect. River access, away from prying eyes, close enough to the city for easy transport." "Transport of what?" I asked carefully. His smile was sharp. "Better if you don't know specifics. Plausible deniability, Krasivaya." Inside, the warehouse was larger than it looked. High ceilings, exposed beams, concrete floors stained with things I didn't want to identify. A few of Alexei's men were already there, moving crates and setting up what looked like a temporary office. "What do you think?" Alexei asked, watching my face. I made myself study the space like Mira would, appraising angles and light. "It has good bones, but it feels cold, impersonal. That's the point. Business, not pleasure. Even business should have some beauty." I moved deeper into the warehouse, spotting a metal support beam near the makeshift office, perfect for the tracker. "Can I look around?" "Of course." I wandered, pretending interest in the architecture, while palming the tiny device Marcus had given me. The trick was doing it naturally, without suspicion. Near the support beam, I stumbled slightly, a calculated move, catching myself against the metal. "Careful," Alexei called out. "These heels weren't made for concrete." I called back, and as I steadied myself, pressed the tracker against the beam, where it would be hidden by shadow. The magnet caught with a soft click. Done. I continued my circuit of the warehouse, heart pounding, and found Alexei in what would become his office. He stood over blueprints spread across a makeshift desk, and when he looked up at me, something in his expression made me freeze. "You know what I like about you, Mira." "What?" "You're not afraid." He moved around the desk, approaching slowly. "Most women would be terrified right now, alone in a warehouse with a man like me. But you're curious, engaged. Either you're incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Maybe both," I said, forcing a smile. "No, not stupid." He was close now, close enough to touch. "You're calculating, always thinking. I see it in your eyes, the way you assess every situation, every angle. You're like me. I'm nothing like you." The words came out sharper than intended. Alexei's eyes narrowed. "No?" His hand came up, fingers ghosting along my jaw. "You helped me interrogate Dmitri without blinking. You kiss me like you mean it. You're here in my warehouse, surrounded by my men, and you're not scared. So tell me, Krasivaya, what are you?" The question hung between us, loaded with suspicion. I had seconds to fix this, seconds before everything fell apart. So I did the only thing I could think of. I kissed him, deeply, desperately, pouring false passion into it until he responded, gripping my waist and pulling me against him, until his suspicion melted into desire, and the danger passed. When I pulled back, his eyes were dark with want. "I'm someone who's tired of playing it safe," I whispered. "Someone who wants more than Moscow allowed. Someone who sees power and craves it. Truth and lies tangled so thoroughly I couldn't separate them." "Dangerous confession," Alexei murmured. "You asked. He laughed, low and pleased, and kissed me again. And I let him, even as my mind screamed, even as I catalogued every detail to report back to Dante. This was the job. This was survival. This was... The sound of gunfire shattered the moment. Alexei shoved me behind him instantly, gun appearing in his hand like magic. More shots, from somewhere in the warehouse, shouting in Russian. "Stay here," he ordered, then ran toward the chaos. I pressed against the wall, pulse hammering. The tracker was already transmitting. Had Dante's people found us? Was this a rescue or a rival attack? More gunfire. An explosion that shook the building. Then silence. I waited, every muscle tensed to run. Slowly, I edged toward the office door, peering out. Bodies. 3 of Alexei's men, down and not moving, and standing over them, gun still raised, was Marcus. Our eyes met across the warehouse. "Run," he mouthed. But before I could move, Alexei appeared, bloodied but alive, and saw Marcus. Saw me, and understood. "You," he breathed, rage and betrayal twisting his features. "You're with Volkov. Alexei, don't." He raised his gun. Not at Marcus, but at me. "How long? How long have you been lying to me?" "Since the beginning," I whispered, because what was the point of lying now? His face crumpled. Just for a second, I saw genuine hurt before the rage swallowed it. "I trusted you," he snarled. "I showed you I let you. You killed my father," I spat back, my own fury breaking free. "Alexei Kozlov. You shot him in that warehouse in Seattle, and laughed while he burned. Did you think I'd forget? Did you think I'd forgive?" Recognition dawned in his eyes. Horror. "Nadia," he whispered. "Yes." The gun trembled in his hand. "You're dead. You were supposed to be dead." Surprise. Marcus moved then, taking advantage of Alexei's shock to cross the distance. But Alexei was faster, pivoting, firing twice. Marcus went down. "No!" I lunged forward, but Alexei caught me, arm banding around my waist, gun pressing against my temple. "Enough!" His shout echoed through the warehouse. "Call them off, Nadia. Call off whoever Volkov sent, or I kill you right now." More of his men poured in from somewhere, and I realized with sinking dread that Marcus had come alone. A rescue attempt, not a full assault. The radio at Alexei's hip crackled. Dante's voice. "Let her go, Alexei. This doesn't have to end badly, doesn't it?" Alexei dragged me toward the exit. "She betrayed me, used me. Volkov sent his little spy, and I fell for it like an idiot." "You killed her father," Dante said, voice cold as winter. "What did you expect?" "I expected professional courtesy. I expected the truce to hold. We were outside now, moving toward Alexei's car. Instead, you send a dead man's daughter to seduce me? That's low even for you, Dante." I pressed the panic button on my necklace. Once, twice. Alexei felt it, reached up and tore the chain from my throat, threw it on the ground and crushed it under his heel. "No more calling for help. Krasavaya." He shoved me into the car. "You're mine now, and when I'm done with you, I'll mount your head on Volkov's doorstep." The car peeled out, and I caught a last glimpse of the warehouse. Marcus's still form on the concrete, Dante somewhere in the shadows. Too late. I'd failed. Alexei drove in silence, jaw clenched, gun resting on his lap within easy reach. Blood seeped from a wound on his shoulder, staining his shirt. Finally, was any of it real? The kiss? The conversations? I could have lied. Should have, but I was so tired of lies. "No," he laughed, bitter and broken. "Of course not. Because who could actually want me, right? The monster, the killer." He glanced at me, and his eyes were empty. "Your father wasn't innocent, you know. He stole from us. Threatened to expose us to the FBI. He deserved what he got. He was my father, and I'm the man who killed him. So what does that make this?" He gestured between us. Revenge? Justice? Stupidity? All three. We drove for hours, until the city disappeared behind us, and darkness swallowed everything whole. Alexei took me to a cabin in Wisconsin, isolated, surrounded by forest, no neighbors for miles. He shoved me inside, locked the door, and for the first time since I'd met him, I saw him completely unravel. "Fuck!" He hurled his gun across the room, where it clattered against the wall. "Fuck! Fuck! Fuck!" I pressed myself against the far wall, watching as he paced like a caged animal, raking hands through his hair, leaving bloody streaks. 6 months, he muttered. 6 months I've been looking for you. And you walk right into my arms wearing a different name and a pretty smile, and I don't even see it. Alexei, don't say my name, don't, he whirled on me. Did Volkov tell you to kiss me like that? To look at me like I was something other than a monster? Yes, he flinched. And the interrogation? Dmitri? That was improvisation. Christ. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. You're good, I'll give you that. You're really fucking good. I should have run. The door was locked, but there were windows. Maybe a back exit, but something stopped me. Maybe exhaustion. Maybe the look on his face, broken and lost, and almost human. Why did you kill him? I asked quietly. My father. Why? Alexei looked up, and for the first time, I saw regret. Orders. My father wanted him dead, wanted the territory. I was supposed to make it look like an accident. He laughed bitterly. I didn't know you were there, didn't know you saw. If I had, what? You would have killed me too? No. He met my eyes. I would have let you go. I've done terrible things, Nadia, unspeakable things, but I don't kill civilians. I don't kill family. I'm not your family. No. You're the daughter of a man I murdered, which makes you the only person in the world with a legitimate reason to want me dead. He stood, moved to a cabinet, pulled out vodka, drank straight from the bottle. So, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to get drunk. You're going to sit there and not try to escape. Because if you do, my men will find you and they won't be as merciful as me. And in the morning, I'm going to figure out what the fuck to do with you. You could let me go. Could I? His smile was broken. Even though you know everything? My warehouses, my operations, my weaknesses. Even though Volkov is probably tracking you somehow and I'd be signing my own death warrant? I'm not tracked. You destroyed the necklace. There are other ways. Implants. Clothing. Hell, maybe they injected something into you while you slept. He took another long pull of vodka. Volkov is clever. Always has been. And I underestimated him. Underestimated you. He sank back onto the couch, and we sat in silence as night deepened outside. Finally, I asked, what did my father steal? Proof. Videos, documents, transaction records, evidence of every bribe we'd paid, every official we'd bought, every crime we'd committed in the last decade. Alexei's voice was hollow. He was going to burn the whole organization to the ground. Take us all down with him. Why? Because we killed his wife, your mother. He looked at me. Did you know that? Did he tell you? My blood ran cold. My mother died in a car accident when I was 10. No. She died because she saw something she shouldn't have. One of our deals. A senator exchanging cash for favors. She was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and my father ordered her silenced. Alexei's hands shook. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know until after. And by then, it was done. The room tilted. Everything I thought I knew, every memory, every assumption crumbled. So your father spent 6 years collecting evidence, Alexei continued. Waiting, planning, and when he was finally ready, we struck first. Self-preservation, survival. He laughed bitterly. The same reason you're with Volkov now. Funny how that works. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mother, murdered. My father, avenging her, and me, caught between them all. Drowning in violence and lies. I'm sorry, Alexei said quietly. For what it's worth. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't bring them back. No, it doesn't. He stood, swaying slightly from the vodka. There's a bedroom down the hall. Door locks from the inside. Get some sleep. We'll figure this out in the morning. He walked away before I could respond, disappearing into another room. I sat there in the darkness, mind spinning. Then, slowly, I stood and searched the cabin. No phone, no computer. The front door was reinforced. The windows had bars. The back door led to a small deck. But beyond that was just forest, miles and miles of nothing. I was trapped. In the bedroom, I found clothesmen's, too large, but clean. I changed out of my ruined dress, washed the blood and grime from my skin, and lay down on the bed. But sleep wouldn't come. Somewhere in the cabin, I heard Alexei moving around. A door opened, closed, footsteps. Then, quietly, the sound of someone crying. I should have felt satisfaction. Should have been glad he was suffering. Instead, I just felt empty. Hours later, I woke to a hand over my mouth. I thrashed, but strong arms pinned me. Shh, Dante's voice. It's me. He removed his hand, and I sat up, gasping. He knelt beside the bed, dressed all in black, face painted with camouflage grease. Behind him, 2 more men, Mikhail and someone I didn't recognize. How? Tracker in your bracelet. The one Katya gave you at the gala. You didn't notice because it looked like jewelry. His pale eyes scanned me, checking for injuries. Are you hurt? No, but Marcus. Alive. In surgery, but alive. Dante's jaw tightened. Alexei? In the other room. Good. He handed me a gun. Stay here. We'll handle this. Wait. I grabbed his arm. He's Dante. He told me things. About my parents. About what really happened. I know what happened. Your father was trying to expose the Morozov family, and they killed him for it. No. They killed my mother first. That's why my father collected evidence. Revenge. The words tumbled out. Alexei didn't know. He's not. He's exactly what he's always been, Dante said coldly. A killer. And he was about to become a dead killer. Don't make this complicated, Tesoro. He stood, and I realized what was about to happen. You're going to murder him. Yes. In cold blood. While he's sleeping. That's the plan. Something in me revolted. No. Dante looked at me like I'd grown a second head. Excuse me? I said no. You're not killing him. Not like this. Nadia. He's the only person who knows what really happened to my mother. The only one who can give me names, details, closure. If you kill him now, I lose that. I stood, gun hanging at my side. And I've lost enough. Mikhail shifted uncomfortably. Dante, we need to move. Someone could have heard us approach, but Dante's eyes stayed locked on mine. This is what you wanted. Revenge. Justice. I wanted the truth, I whispered. And I don't have it yet. So please, let him live. For now. The tension stretched between us, taut as a wire. Finally, Dante exhaled sharply. Fine. We take him alive. Bring him back for questioning. But if he tries anything, we put him down. Agreed? I nodded. Mikhail, with me. You. He pointed to the third man. Cover the exits. They moved like shadows through the cabin. I followed, heart in my throat. We found Alexei passed out on the couch, vodka bottle empty beside him, Dante's gun pressed against his temple. Wake up, Dante said softly. Alexei's eyes opened, focused, and saw death looking back. Volkov, he slurred. Should have known. You should have. Dante's finger tightened on the trigger. Wait, I said. And for the second time that night, everything changed. We brought Alexei back to Chicago in the trunk of Dante's car. Not dead. Not yet. But bound and gagged and probably wishing he was. The safe house was in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. Industrial, abandoned. The kind of place screams went unheard. They dragged him into the basement, secured him to a chair bolted to the concrete floor. Dante dismissed everyone except Mikhail and me. Talk, Dante said, removing Alexei's gag. Tell her everything about her mother's death. Every detail. And maybe I let you die quickly instead of slowly. Alexei spat blood. Generous. I'm not feeling generous. Start talking. So Alexei talked. He told me about the deal Senator Whitaker exchanging votes for money. 50,000 cash in a briefcase. About how my mother had been meeting a friend at a restaurant nearby and saw the exchange through the window. About how his father, Ivan, ordered her death that same night. They made it look like a car accident, Alexei said, voice hollow. Brake lines cut. She went off the road into a ravine. Died on impact, they said. He looked at me. I didn't know until 6 months later, when I overheard my father bragging about it, about how cleanly it was handled. My hands curled into fists. And you did nothing? I was 19, stupid, terrified of my father. His eyes were dead, but I knew it was wrong, knew we'd crossed a line we couldn't uncross. So you just kept working for him? Kept killing? What else was I supposed to do? Walk away? They would have killed me. Killed anyone I cared about. In the Bratva, there's no retirement, no escape. You're in until you're dead. He laughed bitterly, which, I suppose, is right about now. Dante moved closer, gun resting against Alexei's temple. Where's Senator Whitaker now? Dead. Heart attack 3 years ago. Probably not natural, knowing my father. Alexei's eyes found mine. I can give you everyone else, though. Every name, every crime, every dirty secret. Burn the whole organization down like your father wanted. All I ask is that you make my death quick. No deals, Dante said coldly. Wait. I stepped between them. If he gives us everything, and I mean everything, we could destroy the Morozov Bratva completely. Isn't that better than just killing one man? Dante's jaw tightened. Nadia, my father spent 6 years collecting evidence. 6 years of his life, and he died before he could use it. Let Alexei finish what he started. Let him burn his own family to the ground. It's poetic justice. Mikhail shifted. She has a point. She has a death wish, Dante snapped. The moment we let him live, he becomes a liability. He'll escape, or his father will find him, or... I won't, Alexei interrupted. I'm done. I'm so fucking done with all of it. He looked at Dante. You think I want to go back? You think I want to keep being Ivan's attack dog? I've been looking for a way out for years. You're giving me one. I'll testify. I'll give you everything. Just... His voice cracked. Just let me do something right for once. The basement went silent. Dante studied Alexei for a long moment, then looked at me. This is your call. He killed your father. If you want him dead, say the word. I approached Alexei slowly, looked into his eyes, those eyes that had laughed over my father's screams, that had kissed me, that now held something almost like hope. If you lie, I said quietly, if you betray us, I will kill you myself, slowly. Do you understand? I understand. And you'll give us everything? No holding back? Everything. I turned to Dante. Let him live. Use him. And when it's over, when the Morozov Bratva is destroyed, then we decide his fate. Dante's expression was unreadable. You're too soft for this world, Tesoro. Maybe. Or maybe I'm the only one who remembers what justice actually means. Over the next 2 weeks, Alexei talked. He gave us names, dates, locations, bank account numbers, shell corporations, safe houses, trafficking routes, corruption chains that went all the way to the governor's office. Dante's people verified everything, built cases, collected evidence, and I watched, helping where I could, feeling the weight of what we were building, a house of cards that would collapse and crush the entire Morozov organization. Alexei was kept in the safe house, guarded constantly, but Dante allowed me to visit him. Why? Alexei asked during one visit. Why spare me? I sat across from him, studying his face. The bruises had faded, but he looked older, tired. Because you're right. You're not your father. You made terrible choices, but you can still choose differently. Redemption? He laughed bitterly. I'm past that, maybe, but you can still balance the scales. I leaned forward. My father died trying to expose the truth. My mother died for seeing it. If you help destroy the people responsible, then their deaths meant something. And what about me? What do I get? You get to live with what you've done. That's its own punishment. His eyes searched mine. You should hate me. I do hate you. But I also understand you. And I think understanding is more dangerous than hate. Something shifted between us, then not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. We were both victims of the same violence, the same legacy, different sides, but trapped in the same war. The night before the raids, Dante found me on the roof of the safe house. I'd been coming up here to think, to breathe, to escape the weight of everything. He sat beside me without asking, and we watched the city breathe. Tomorrow, he said finally, we move on the Morozov properties. FBI, ATF, Chicago PD, all coordinated. By sunset, Ivan and his entire operation will be finished. And Alexei? Witness protection. New identity. New life. Assuming he survives the trials. Dante's profile was sharp against the night sky. You saved him. You know, if you'd let me kill him in that cabin, none of this would be possible. I didn't save him. I just postponed his death. Still counts. He turned to look at me. What will you do? After? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I haven't thought past tomorrow. You should. This war is ending, but you'll still be here. Still be alive. That's worth something. Is it? The words came out bitter. I've spent 6 months running, 2 weeks pretending to love a man I hated. I don't even know who I am anymore. You're Nadia Kozlov, Dante said firmly. Daughter of Alexei and Elena. Survivor. Fighter. Someone strong enough to choose mercy when vengeance would have been easier. That's who you are. Tears burned my eyes. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't about how you feel. It's about what you do despite how you feel. His hand found mine, fingers lacing together. And you've done nothing but prove your strength since the moment we met, Dante. I know what I said. About you being a job. About keeping distance. He squeezed my hand. I lied. Somewhere between the poker game and now, you became something more, and I don't know what to do about that. My heart hammered. What are you saying? I'm saying when this is over, when you're safe and free, I want to see where this goes. Us. If there's an us. He looked at me then, and his pale eyes were vulnerable for the first time since I'd known him. If you want that. I should have said no. Should have walked away from this man who was as dangerous as the one I'd infiltrated, but I'd learned something in these weeks. Safety was an illusion. Love was a risk. And I was so tired of being afraid. Yes, I whispered. I want that. He kissed me then. Soft and careful. Like I was something precious. Like I was something worth protecting. And for the first time in 6 months, I felt like I could breathe. Tomorrow, we'd destroy the Morozov Bratva. Tomorrow, I'd finally get justice for my parents. But tonight, on this roof under Chicago stars, I was just Nadia. Just a woman finding her way back to herself. The raids happened at dawn. Simultaneous strikes across 17 locations. I watched from Dante's operations center as feeds came in, agents in tactical gear, swarming warehouses, offices, mansions, arrests by the dozen, evidence seized by the truckload. Ivan Morozov was taken at his estate, dragged out in handcuffs while news helicopters circled overhead. It was over in 4 hours. A decade-long criminal empire, dismantled in a single morning. Dante stood beside me, watching the screens with satisfaction. Your father would be proud. My father's dead. Yes. But his work lives on. That matters. Maybe. I didn't know anymore. Alexei was transported that afternoon, federal marshals surrounding him. Before they took him away, he looked at me through the safe house window. Thank you, he mouthed. I didn't respond. Just watched as they loaded him into an unmarked van and drove away. I'd saved his life, used him, destroyed his family. What did that make me? Katya appeared at my elbow. You okay? I don't know. Honest answer. She squeezed my shoulder. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Mercy is harder than murder. Requires more strength. Dante said something similar. Dante's smarter than he looks. She grinned. Though don't tell him I said that. The media called it the biggest organized crime bust in Chicago history. Senators resigned. Judges were indicted. The governor's approval rating tanked as his connections to the Morozov family surfaced. My name never appeared. Dante made sure of that. Officially, I didn't exist. Mira Volkov disappeared like smoke. And Nadia Kozlov. Nadia got to decide who she wanted to be. 3 months later, I stood in a cemetery outside Seattle, rain falling soft and steady. 2 headstones, side by side. Alexei Kozlov, beloved father. Elena Kozlov, beloved mother, wife. I'd added the second part, made sure her stone reflected the truth of who she'd been before they'd taken her from me. I finished it, I told them quietly. What you started, Dad, I finished it. The Morozovs are done. Mom's death is avenged. Rain mixed with tears on my face. I don't know if that makes it better. If anything makes it better. But it's done. The wind whispered through the trees. No answers. Just silence. I placed flowers on both graves. Lilies for my mother, who'd loved them. Roses for my father, who'd bought them for her every anniversary. I'm going to try to live now. I said. Really live. Not just survive. That's what you'd want, right? For me to be happy? Still no answer. But I felt lighter anyway. Dante found me at the apartment that evening, a new place. Not the penthouse prison, but a modest loft in Wicker Park that I'd chosen myself. Paid for with money Dante insisted was mine from consulting fees, but we both knew was guilt money. I didn't care. I'd earned it. How was Seattle? He asked, shaking rain from his coat. Sad. Necessary. I poured coffee, handed him a mug. How's the business? Restructuring. Now that the Morozovs are gone, there's territory to redistribute, deals to remake. He sipped coffee, watched me over the rim. I could use someone with your particular skills. Reading people. Strategy. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a partnership, if you want it. He set down the mug. No pressure. You've earned the right to walk away, do something normal. But the offer stands. I considered it. The mafia life, the danger, the moral compromises, everything I should run from. What would I do? Exactly? Legitimate consulting, helping me transition the family business toward legal operations, gaming, real estate, security, still dangerous, still complex, but cleaner. His pale eyes held mine. I'm trying to be better than my father was. Better than the reputation. I could use help. From the woman who infiltrated your enemy and nearly got killed? From the woman who showed mercy when killing would have been easier? Who sees people clearly? Who makes me want to be the man she thinks I could be? He moved closer. From Nadia Kozlov, who's the strongest person I've ever met. My breath caught. Dante, I love you, he said simply. I've probably loved you since you won that first poker hand without looking at your cards, and I know it's complicated and messy and we've only known each other a few months, but I kissed him. Stopped the words because I couldn't stand to hear more without responding. When I pulled back, his expression was almost shy. I love you too, I whispered. Even though you're infuriating and dangerous, and you killed a man at a poker table, that's fair, and I'll take the partnership. On one condition. Name it. We do this right. No more lies between us. No more secrets. If we're building something together, it has to be built on truth. Dante nodded slowly. Truth. I can do truth. He paused. Then here's a truth. I've never felt this way about anyone. Never wanted to protect someone and be protected by them at the same time. You terrify me, Nadia Kozlov. Good. You should be terrified. I'm very dangerous. I grinned. I can win at poker without looking at my cards. Remember? How do you do that, anyway? Trade secret. Not if we're being honest with each other. I hesitated, then said, I read probability. Not mathematically, I can't explain the math, but I can feel it, like patterns in the air, the odds of things. It's why I survived 6 months on the run, why I knew when to hide, when to risk exposure. It's just something I've always had. Dante stared at me. You're saying you have some kind of gift, curse, mutation. I don't know what to call it. I shrugged. My father called it the luck. Said his mother had it too, could predict weather and card games and when someone was lying. I thought it was superstition, until I started winning at poker without trying. That's incredible. That's terrifying. If the wrong people knew, I'll protect you, Dante said fiercely. And your secret. Always. I believed him. God help me. I believed him. 6 months after that, the Volkov family business was transforming. Dante had closed half the illegal operations, transitioned the rest toward legitimacy. It was slow, dangerous work. You couldn't just walk away from decades of crime without consequences. But we were managing. I ran the consulting arm, helping negotiate deals, reading people, strategizing. Katya handled security. Mikhail oversaw the real estate portfolio. Luka kept the finances clean. We were becoming something new. Something almost respectable. Almost. I got the letter on a Tuesday. Federal Prosecutor's Office. Official seal. Miss Kozlov, this is to inform you that Alexei Morozov has completed his testimony against the remaining members of the Morozov crime family. Thanks to your cooperation and his, an additional 17 individuals have been indicted. Your father's evidence, combined with Mr. Morozov's testimony, has resulted in the largest organized crime conviction in federal history. You are hereby released from any further obligation. Your identity will remain sealed. Thank you for your service. Also, Mr. Morozov asked that we pass along a message. Tell her I'm sorry, and thank you. I read it 3 times, then handed it to Dante. It's done, I said softly. Really done. How do you feel? Free, terrified, relieved. I laughed. Sudden and bright. I don't know. Everything. Dante pulled me close, and I buried my face in his shoulder. What now? He murmured. Now? I looked up at him, this dangerous man who'd become my anchor. Now we live. We build. We try to be better than the people who came before us. That's ambitious. I'm an ambitious woman. He kissed my forehead, my cheeks, my mouth. Yes, you are. Epilogue, 1 year later. The casino opened on a cold November night. Not the Crimson Rose, Dante had sold that. This was something new. The Kozlov, named after my father, in honor of his memory. Legitimate. Legal. Beautiful. I stood at the entrance watching guests arrive. Dante's hand warm in mine. Your father would be proud, he said again. Maybe, I agreed. Or maybe he'd lecture me about getting involved with a mob boss. Reformed mob boss. Still counts. We laughed, and it felt good. Normal. Human. Inside, the poker tables gleamed. I designed the layout myself. Optimal sightlines, perfect lighting, everything calculated for the best player experience. And at the center table, a small plaque. In memory of Alexei and Elena Kozlov. Truth and love always. Ready? Dante asked. I looked at the casino, our future, built from ashes and lies and the painful work of choosing better. Ready, I said, and together, we walked inside.